Oh, all right. This one holds a spot. This one holds a spot in my heart for sure. This movie, White Noise, came out January 7th, 2005. This was directed by Jeffrey Sachs, written by, see, I want to say it's Niall Johnson.
It's close enough.
I could, Niall, whatever. Yeah, we're not doing names today. This starred Michael Keaton, Chandler West, Deborah Unger, Ian McNeice, Sarah Strange, Nicholas Name. uh, so this movie was essentially, there was a guy who was trying to speak with his dead wife through EVP, and as Eugene likes to say, shit got real. It went in directions that he was not expecting and ended up contacting people he did not want to contact. Now, this movie came out, and I saw this in theaters, ironically, on a. We were going to a lock in, kids used to do. I was 15 back at the time, but we're going to this lock in, and it was with a church, and they let us just go into the movie theater and kind of pick what movie we wanted to go see. And this one was playing, so me and some of my friends went and saw it, and the church people were not very happy. To be clear, I was not with the church. I did not attend the church. It was just a friend that was like, "Hey, we're doing this thing, and we can bring a guest," and so I went with. And yeah, it was insane seeing this movie because it was kind of new in the way that what they were doing was kind of a new take on ghosts. And I think this one stuck with me for a really long time because it wasn't necessarily good, but it was definitely like different.
Well, I can already tell from the chat that obviously Jessica G is a huge fan of White Noise, and several people have been a fan of this film. I do remember seeing it in theaters. Eugene, did you get to see it in theaters?
No, actually, I saw it shortly afterwards. I saw it on DVD when it came out, and I actually really enjoyed it, and it was always kind of a creepy aspect to it. There's something creepy about the chance that there's a being standing next to you that you don't know is there. And so when I saw EVP was something that was actually like I didn't super dive into or anything like that, but it was always like a really kind of a creepy aspect to it on it. And yeah, I like films like this. I do. I like them. I like when you're tense.
It is. It's tense through the whole thing. It never lets up.
It's so freaking interesting because at the time I was 25 when this one came out, and I remember I really enjoyed Michael Keaton. I thought Michael Keaton did well, especially because I was a fan of him from from obviously Beetlejuice, Batman, the varying roles he plays. But he went in a different direction, and I liked the character that he played here. He showed a vulnerability that I think he normally didn't. But the thing that struck me about this, looking back at White Noise now, is because anybody knows my own personal channel, I go after like woo believing stuff, and EVP is woo. So, and we know that now. We know that electronic voice phenomena is just an effect of pareidolia and the lesser known apophenia. It's finding noise or finding values in chaos. You see a pattern, you see the texturing on your wall, and then from painting it, and then all of a sudden you look and you see a face in your wall. Well, there's no face there, but your brain puts it together, and that's kind of what EVP does. You find what you're looking for. That doesn't make it any less creepy, because sometimes, that's what it is. And I think that not enough horror films take advantage of natural phenomena like pareidolia and then use it to greater effect, because it was used to extreme effect in this one, where it could mean something, but it probably doesn't, but you never know, it just might. And that's where it was kind of like you said, you weren't aware of something like behind you. Something could be next to you, but it just can't cross that barrier, can't talk to you, and like that. So how would you know? And of course, it chats through the static. Creepily shot, and the idea of evil spirits lurking in the static or lurking on that side, trying to do terrible things. Kind of freaky. I will admit, the film was creepy. It really was.
And I like the fact that you brought up how people seeing things in chaos or making out a face or something like that, because regardless to say it's fake or something, the mind believes it's real. And
yes.
I remember I was reading a story on Reddit, and there was a woman in an insane asylum, and she had duct tape over her face. And it was tape over she tape over her mouth, and she had tape over her ears. And it was like, well, what was wrong with her? It was like, oh, well, she has a condition where she believes she's constantly covered in cockroaches, and she knows they're not there. She knows it's a hallucination. She's completely lucid in that fact, but everything her brain is telling her says that they are there. And
that's
because
fucking
of
fucking
that,
creepy.
it makes it real. So so even if it's just something, a pattern, it's a pattern in the wall, a pattern that's static or something like that. If the mind believes it is truly real, then it just might as well be.
It really
It's just insane that your brain can do things like that.
Yeah. It's wild, the idea, and I think this is I think this was an early example of what we would now kind of refer to as intelligent horror, using something that is definitely real. Like EVP is a phenomena, and it is. It's just, I think that people mistake it for something more than it actually is. But it does actually occur. If you listen to enough static, eventually the tones are going to come together. You're going to make out something discernible, or at least close to discernible. And even if it's close to discernible, you're going to listen to it enough times that eventually you're going to fill in the blanks. Just like in the brain teaser, when you have the optical illusion, when you have the four corners, and then you look at the four corners, you look in the center, and your brain fills in the lines to make the square. Because that's what the brain does. So you may hear the bits and pieces, and then you listen to it enough, and your brain will fill in the blanks, and then you'll actually get a sentence. But this occurs, and it speaks to something very primal within us. And I think that's an important aspect of horror. And obviously, it's kind of like I would attribute, like, being afraid of something like of a film like this, or finding a film like this scary, it goes to a more primitive sense of us. It's like kind of like hearing something, but you can't see where it came from, or hearing something in the dark, getting closer, but you can't gauge where it's at, or maybe you smell something, really a kind of growing odor, but you don't hear anything or see anything. Playing with your senses like that is really, really smart stuff. And White Noise did well at the theaters. I think of on a $10 million budget, it grossed 91.2, so that's pretty damn good. I
did want to bring this up, and this is I just now thought about it, because, not saying any voice of people trying to communicate with you in the afterlife or something like that, but for the military, when we use long range radio communications, a lot of times we bounce stuff off the atmosphere, like for longer communicating between states and continents and all this kind of stuff. And so a lot of times what happens is these signals will get lost up in the atmosphere, and they'll float around up there like indefinitely. And so occasionally you will actually hear old recordings from signals from the past. They're long gone and stuff like that. But I've had people who've been on radio and they've heard communications from like World War II, like pilots and stuff like that. It's just the signals just stuck up there, and it just loops around the Earth. And occasionally you'll come and you'll hear it.
Oh, that is fucking crazy.
I'm gonna have to do some research into that.
Yeah, dude, definitely look into not any kind of short band communication or anything like that between bases, but when you're thinking long range, where the military sets up antennas on mountaintops and communicates like directly to Japan or Korea or something like that. And we've gotten signals from like battleships. We've gotten signals from pilots from World War II, stuff like that.
That's cool.
That is so fucking creepy. That's okay. Now it's really cool natural phenomena like that, because we can explain that, we understand why that happens, but it still speaks to something very ancient within us. In our more primitive times, when we would run from the rustle in the grass because of the possibility it could be a lion waiting for us. So we would run from it because it could be a lion, but it may have in reality it might have just been the wind. But you don't want to make the mistake. So that's kind of ingrained in us. And I like these things that play on that aspect. And that makes for really, really smart horror, really, really fun horror, because you kind of go having learned a little bit something, being aware of something in a way that you weren't. I would say a similar experience would be after I watched Blair Witch Project. And after I watched the Blair Witch Project, I came away with a kind of new perspective, because it had been a long time since I'd watched something in black and white. Found footage was relatively new. It wasn't the newest thing, but it was relatively new for the mainstream. And the whole concept of seeing the film in a different way, of seeing a movie in a completely different experience, weirded me out, but made me more keenly aware of various other things. It altered my perspective a bit. It opened my eyes a bit. And a movie like this, like White Noise, that did the same thing for me. Because obviously, if you go and you look at the analytics, the weekend that this movie released looks, like searches for the paranormal, EVP, and all the equipment needed to study that skyrocketed. So,
of course.
Oh,
so
yeah, of course,
check out
people all of a sudden bring up something new.
Let's see what we got here. So, people have been talking about this. So, let's see. PhD Tony says, I'm looking forward to seeing it. There aren't many Keaton films I do not like. This true. He has been amazing, from Multiplicity all the way up to, actually, I would say from War of
the Worlds.
No, Michael Keaton film. It was a very, very early one when he played the crazy guy in the asylum.
Nope.
Son of a bitch.
Oh.
Christopher Lloyd. Oh, goddamn. It's a comedy, so it's probably why I fucked up and I can't remember it. But let's go from Beetlejuice. I know there was movies he was in before that. From Beetlejuice all the way up to The Vulture, he's been fucking amazing. So I think PhD Tony would really, really enjoy it. Let's see. Sir Little Wolf says, I'm pagan, so I do believe in some woo stuff. Oh, there you go.
PhD Tony, these aren't your traditional walkie-talkie radio signal. This is a whole different type of tech.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he was responding to that. So PhD Tony said, I find that very difficult to believe. I doubt that World War II signals can be preserved, and I think that's an urban myth. And I think you got your response from Eugene there.
I have a radio operator who's coming over later tonight who experienced it personally. Like, he can hop on and be like, yeah, I heard it directly himself.
Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Johnny Dangerously. Johnny Dangerously was amazing. That was a Michael Keaton film. So Johnny Dangerously was fantastic. Yes, thank you, plot hole. The Dream Team. Fuck, I couldn't remember that movie. But I remember that Christopher Lloyd was in it, because they all broke out of the mental asylum. It was like a funny version of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And Tina Jones, yep, Dream Team. Yeah, thank you for bringing that. Of course, PhD Tony, Dream Team. I'm glad we were able to find that. So Sir Little Wolf says, like, Behind the Mask. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. It was about a serial killer or a guy documenting his rise to try and become a serial killer or mass murderer or whatever. I don't think there was a cult aspect to that, was there?
I don't really think so.
Huh? Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. It's been a while since I've seen it, because I only saw it because Robert Englund was in it. So let's see. Gavlar, the Hand of God. Pacific Heights was good. Yes, Pacific Heights was very good. I'm also a fan of Multiplicity. Mr. Mom. I'm a fan of Mr. Mom. There's a whole bunch of movies of his movies that I fucking love. So great, great stuff.
Are you just naming Michael Keaton movies now?
Oh yeah, just PhD Tony is right. There's rarely movies in it that I don't dig.
No,
yeah, he was in Birdman. That came out a couple.
Birdman,
years ago.
Yeah. So with White Noise, something very, very interesting happened. I found this really interesting because this was 2005, so it's only 15 years ago. This is relatively, but I mean, it's kind of new because this isn't like something that happened in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. So for those in the audience who may not have heard it, there are two periods of the year that are called the dump season. So there is a kind of winter dump season, and I would say fall to winter dump season, and then kind of like a winter to spring dump season. And then you have spring going into summer, summer going into autumn. And of course, the summer is your tentpole season where you have your big heavy hitters come out. But there are the dump seasons. And dump seasons typically were the 2 points of the year where audience attendance at the movie theater was completely tanked. No one went out. It was either too cold or people were spending time with their families, and people just didn't go to the movies. And so the worst movies in a production company's repertoire, or their slate, the slate of films they were have coming out, the worst ones, the ones that they knew they probably weren't going to bank anything on, or maybe they were just vehicles for a specific actor. These films were released during the dump months. So they get them out, they get a little bit of money from them. They're not going to make their money back. They've already anticipated it, and it's already covered. So then they'll get a little bit of money and whatever. So the big ones are saved for the summer when kids are out of school and everybody can go to the theaters. But it was white noise. And I think... Yes, Eugene, tell me. This was Universal, right?
Let me double check real quick.
I think that this was Universal that tapped this keg.
Yeah, Universal. Yeah, so with white noise, like you say, with the dump months, and people kind of throw them out there, and so what Universal did, because White Noise is a good film, Universal threw it out because now imagine having the only good film when everybody else is doing bad films.
Yep.
So people are going to naturally gravitate towards it. So it may not be able to hold its own against these blockbusters and stuff like that, or the awards movies in December, but if you have no competition right now, you throw something up, it becomes successful, which this film was very successful on it. And so what studios actually started doing in terms of horror films is start putting some of these out that are not bad films, knowing there's going to be little to no competition. The latest one being Invisible Man. Invisible Man came out like in January, like end of January,
yes,
something like that. And Invisible Man is a good, solid movie. They knew it was a solid film. It was not supposed to be a dump or throwaway, but it's almost like having a temporary monopoly on the theaters. There's just nothing else that people are going to go see. And so we'll start getting these horror films, these little gems that come out that they know will make money because of lack of competition.
Let us know in the live chat. Just let us know if you guys saw the new Invisible Man. I thought it was fucking amazing. It blew my mind. It was so much better than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be oh, it built me up, and I thought it was going to be like Us, where I was like, I'm so excited, and then I see it and I'm kind of like, okay. But Invisible Man was fucking amazing. That movie was phenomenal. Elizabeth Moss was so fucking good in that. But yeah,
I love the end of that movie where you had no idea what was actually going to happen. It was like, okay, it's going to be one of a few things, and then you're like, oh, huh.
And I thought it's interesting that a movie like this little Michael Keaton film about electronic voice phenomena, most likely that this script was sitting in some file somewhere. It was this. It's not like this was a what do they call it? It's not like this was sitting on the blacklist. Okay, where the blacklist is basically a collection of kind of untapped screenplays that are floating around Hollywood, and they're the hottest unproduced screenplays out there. Films that are supposed to be really fucking good, but they're either too expensive or the production companies not moving in that direction. But they are super hot movies, and so if anybody wants to pick one of them up, they typically are really, really expensive to produce, but you typically get gold medals when you grab something off the blacklist. This wasn't one of those movies. I guarantee you, someone out there wrote a script about EVP that was probably really fucking boring, and then some other studio house picked it up, or Universal got the rights to it, or they bought the script outright, and then they had their writers have a go at it, changed it up a little bit, put some more dramatic elements, fictionalize a little bit, artistic license here, drop in Michael Keaton and Deborah Kara Unger, and boom, there you go. You have a solid film, especially a solidly acted film. So it's really, really, it's wild that Universal accidentally stumbled upon this, and this is classic, studio filmmaking. Well, we need a movie to release in fucking December, or January, at the top of January, which is a shit fucking month for the theaters. So let's go ahead and let's do this fucking EVP movie. Yeah, it's whatever. It's a movie about ghosts that you can't even see. So we'll do that. And it's kind of like, okay. So they throw it out there, and then all of a sudden it lands, and it fucking lands hard, and an untapped market, which is people like us, people like Jessica G, individuals like this, will go to the theaters to see these movies. So production companies started putting a little more money into the horror movies because this untapped audience suddenly sprung up. Suddenly, this $10 million film just generated almost $100 million at the box office. We're not going to ignore that. So Universe kicked the ball on that one. All of a sudden, now, toward like you said, we still see it going on today. 15 years later, we get Invisible Man last January, and it was fucking amazing. So
it was great.
It was.
That's and then they made a second one of these. I don't know if you guys ever saw.
They did, and how do you have?
I didn't see 2.
How do you have Nathan Fillion and oh shit, Bo-Katan? I love her so much. I can't remember her name. Her fucking autograph is right there on my wall.
What are you talking about from the second one?
Yes. What is her name?
Katie Sackhoff?
Katie Sackhoff. That's my girl.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, wait a second. There's only a couple.
And no, every time I think of her name, Kira jumps in my head. And I'm like, no, her name is not Kira Sedgwick. Kira Sedgwick is married to Kevin Bacon. Fuck. So, no. Katie Sackhoff, yes. I know, right, Dark Steve? I'm so sorry. I fucked it up. Unless he's talking to Irish Demon, then we'll blame Irish Demon. But yeah, but yes, Jeff Roberts, Gavlar, yes, it is Katie Sackhoff. Katie Sackhoff's, like, her autograph is right there on my fucking wall, right below Norman Reedus. So I totally fucked that up. But yes, how do you take something that worked with Michael Keaton, EVP, you expand the subject matter, you drop in Nathan Fillion, Firefly, Buffy, awesome, everybody fucking loves him, and Katie Sackhoff, Starbuck. So you got Mal Reynolds and Starbuck, and fuck the movie up. I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed by White Noise too. I wanted it to be good because, come on, man. You had fucking Katie Sackhoff. She's just kicking ass, fucking Cylons up left and right. And you got Malcolm Reynolds giving a middle finger to the fucking Alliance and shit. And I'm like, fuck yes. And then all of a sudden, weak sauce.
Hey, the concept was cool.
Yeah, okay, Sir Little Wolf. Yes, Slither. Excellent. There you go. Of course, that was Elizabeth Banks and Nathan Fillion and a bunch of other people. Michael Rooker, the powerhouse. But fuck yeah. I don't know why, but White Noise really got me. It creeped me out like Blair Witch creeped me out in 1999. It made me look at the world a little bit differently. It's kind of expanded my horizons. I thought that the finishing scene of Michael Keaton, like in the Static, like the dramatic look in Static, where he's like, I thought that was a little on the nose. Like it's like, oh, he's dead now. Oh, he's in the Static. I thought that was kind of like that's a little ham-handed. But I digress. That was just the end. But it was decent. I thought it was cool. It was a cool little ghost film. I think it ranks up there. It's not as extreme as say like The Grudge or The Ring or some other ghost movies. But this is definitely no. Huh?
I was just trying to think. There was a movie that I had in my head when we started talking about this one. Now I can't remember what I was thinking about.
Brain fart seemed to be the theme of the fucking
theme
day
tonight, man. It was like
it might be today.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna bring up this ghost movie, and then nope, I lost it.
Totally. But yeah,
we'll come to you at the end of the podcast.
For a little ghost movie, for a scary ghost movie that played on something that's real, that actually does occur. I thought it was really, really smart, and I'm sad that they messed up the second one. They just tried to go, I think, a little too extreme. The whole like moving through electricity, that was fucking weird.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, but I thought the first one was solid. It's definitely, and I think it holds up. So anybody who has not seen it, so I think, like I said, PhD Tony, you haven't seen it yet. The movie holds up. It has aged very well.
And that's the thing too. That was around the time that like like ghost movies started coming back, you know, you had a lot of ghost movies. I guess you really didn't have like a ton of ghost movies beforehand. I like ghost movies. I think that's probably one of my. I love slashers and everything, but I think ghost movies really do it for me in horror because it's so out there. It's so like supernatural, so surreal. You know that it's like, okay, if that did happen, that would be super. Because anybody can just go nuts and kill a bunch of people. But then like if something like supernatural happened, be like, okay, that's scary. Bird scared too. But
Yeah,
hey,
definitely.
audience.
Because oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, audience, let us know what's your favorite ghost movie.